morning of January 1st, 1970, Edith Beiling, a school aide, took notice of something strange in the skies near Alexander Elementary School in British Columbia, Canada. Beiling rushed outside after spying the strange object through the window and having no good explanation for what she was seeing. The object seemed to hold a ring shape and have something solid in the middle. Beiling recalls being one of several witnesses who had sighted the mysterious object. The object was described as having a texture similar to rolled up plastic and being, quote, big enough to fit a large plane inside it 15 times. This sighting has often been connected to another incredible close encounter that took place earlier that morning at the local hospital, where a number of medical staff were witness not only to a strange craft, but its occupants as well. This case file joined the theorists as they put on their nursing shoes and head for the UFO ward in the Cowichan Hospital UFO Encounter.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, Case File 270, the Vancouver Island UFO Encounter, and the night nurses, the hospital encounter. This is what we're so late because we're just arguing about the name. So we'll figure the name out in post.
No, that's it. Whatever you just mumbled there.
That's sticking with it.
Got it
Put it on there.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Tan.
And I'm Andrew.
Now, not only are we coming back up north to the Great White North, the greatest place on earth, Canada.
Some of us are staying there.
Yeah.
We didn't go anywhere.
Right? And, not only there, but this is also pretty close to me. I've driven past the hospital in this encounter. This is on Vancouver Island, where Meth Laboratories is located.
Isn't that the new name of the studio?
Yeah.
From the outside,
yeah.
That's
Meth
it.
Laboratories.
Is that an acronym for something? Or
it's like music, equalization,
entertainment,
television,
hip hop.
Yeah, hip hop Laboratories.
Okay.
I was in a hip hop group.
As Braden has mentioned, this case takes us up to the Great White North on early in the morning of New Year's Day, January 1st, 1970. And it was at the Cowichan District Hospital on Vancouver Island, where practical nurse Doreen Kendall was attending to a patient on the second floor of the eastern wing of this said hospital.
Haunted hospital, I believe.
Is it?
Absolutely. Has to be.
All hospitals are they not?
Is it?
It has to be. Go, let's think about it. How many that's where the most people die. It's going to be paranormally activated.
Yeah.
It has to be.
It's a pretty
where all the
old
suffering
looking,
is.
It's in Duncan too. Like Duncan's kind of a I don't want to.
It's pure concentrated misery.
Actually, I can't say anything bad about Duncan
It's
because
the world's most
people
haunted
from there
hospital.
live
Do we
close
wanna
to
put
me,
that
so
label
then
on it?
anyone listens.
Do we rename this world's most haunted hospital and UFOs?
Do we bust out our stamps? We got our stamps. We have our ATT most haunted stamps.
Oh yeah. Just slap one on there. Yeah. UFO sighting at the world's most haunted hospital?
You don't say.
CDH. Two paranormal worlds collide. No, but it's not haunted. It's fine.
The ads for this one are right in itself.
Someone cut that trailer, yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah. Monday.
So Doreen Kendall was attending to one of her elderly patients that seemed to be having some sort of discomfort that she noticed. And
no shit.
As one does in the hospital.
Sure. And
Nurse, I'm ready for my sponge bath.
So Kendall thought that the patient could probably benefit from some fresh air, as she thought he was just maybe he was too warm. was her assessment. And then so she
he's been
went over
shot
to
twice.
this
Stinks.
He's bleeding out on the table.
He
needs some air.
Hey, you need some air.
Well, it's the 70s, right? It's like they just put away the leeches.
Yeah.
right.
They're still lobotomizing people.
Yeah.
Like we're getting,
Hey, honey, well, you probably need some air.
So this is, or as we said before, this was early morning. So about around 5 a.m., I believe. And so she walked over to the nearby window next to her patient, and she opened up the drapes in order to get some airflow going. And then what she saw out the window took her completely by surprise. So as she opened these drapes, she whatever, threw them open, I suppose, just to get, I don't know, heavy. I'm sure they were like heavy blackout drapes. So she's like,
on the really nice gliders, like, the ones that are smooth, right? Where it's like,
I'm sure it's extremely dramatic.
I'm just going to give you guys all a tip. Don't ever touch them.
It's the one
drapes.
It's the one thing they don't.
The drapes,
they don't get washed.
curtains. Don't
touch anything.
Just
in
don't
the
touch
hospital.
them. Just don't touch them. Don't ever touch them.
Drapes in a hospital and drapes in a hotel room don't get washed.
Don't touch anything.
No.
Stay away.
Hotels, semen, sometimes blood. Hospitals, usually blood.
Vomit, bile. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Stay away from that. Don't touch them.
So as she threw open the curtains, she was nearly blinded by some sort of source of bright light, just streaming straight through the window. And it took a moment for her eyes to adjust. And
oh my
once
God,
they did,
my eyes.
once her eyes adjusted to this bright source of light, she found herself looking at what she could only describe as a glowing stationary object that was hovering in the air opposite of the children's ward of the hospital, which was located on the floor above where she was checking in on her patient. Now, when Kendall went on to describe what she was looking at, because she had a good look at this thing. It was extremely close. And she described it as being this kind of spherical looking craft. And it had she gave it a good distance because she was looking at it, and she estimated that it was about 5 window pane. Like it stretched, it probably reached about 5 window panes, which she said was about 50 feet. She said it looks like a 50 feet in diameter of this thing. So fairly large. And then
it's like that, but like if you're throwing that open, like, and you just see this kind of thing, like it, her first reaction
you're gonna
is
eat
like,
a bedpan.
yeah. But the other thing is she's looking at it and she's like, immediate thoughts is like, is this a helicopter? Like this is a helicopter. I guess I'm looking at a cockpit or something. Like it's
interesting because she explained when she saw it, it literally like lit up the entire side of the building like it was daytime.
Yeah,
and it was in the middle of the morning, pitch black.
Yeah, 5 a.m. in January. Yeah, pitch black.
Yeah, it's like dark.
And so when she her eyes further adjusted to the bright lights that were being, given off by this craft, she said that she could observe like the bottom half of the craft seemed to be made of some type of metallic substance. And then the top was just transparent, made of some sort of transparent material. Probably she kind of described it as being similar to glass because she could see inside of it. And this craft was completely silent. She couldn't hear anything. So
this is like fucking Jet. This is like George Jetson.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking,
exactly.
Dome.
Right?
Yeah. Is it George?
Yeah, that didn't make that sound. This was no sound. So in her kind of mental checklist, she remembers kind of checking off, be like, this can't be a helicopter because there's no sound. I don't know exactly, still trying to figure out what I'm looking at. And then the middle of the craft seemed to be encircled by what she described as looked like some sort of like airfoil. So some kind of like, flattened out extension around the center, I guess like the equator, you could say, of the craft. And then the entire outside of the craft along this flattened surface, she was saying that it had glowing lights, like a necklace of lights encircling and evenly spaced around the edge.
And one of the things with Kendall is that like one of the reasons why people take her descriptions like really believe what she says is because she was very mechanically inclined. Like she fixed her own cars. She was like a car enthusiast, did some automotive work and stuff. Like, so she had a kind of like a decent knowledge of that kind of stuff. This stuff, but it's at least when she's not like, oh, it's a gizmo over here or something, right?
Yeah, I think she...
No, listen, sweetheart, that's a chassis to a 57 Chevy, all right, in the glass. That's from an Impala.
Yeah.
All right?
It doesn't look nothing like
here,
my Bel Air, but it's...
Holy... I swear to God, you sound just like Krusty the Clown. It's fucking killing me.
She sounds like Krusty the Clown.
That's fair.
Yes, it is said that Kendall is, she was familiar with a lot of
she's a gearhead.
Well, yeah, she was familiar with a lot of automotive designs because her father and her brothers were all when she was raised.
Criminals.
Yeah, there was this weird thing where they had to steal all these cars and be gone in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
They had a family tradition where four of them would bring blocks to a car with jacks, and then they would take the tires all the time.
They did a documentary about it, and it had Nick Cage.
Yeah, her dad's name's Memphis, right? Her dad's name's Memphis?
And so the way that the craft was positioned, as described by Kendall, is like relative to where she was standing. It seemed that the transparent top was clearly visible to her and gave her pretty much like a detailed view of what she assumed, just looking at it. She would kind of refer to it as the cockpit of this craft. And
I bet she did.
Oh yeah.
And also the occupants
who was standing in the cockpit.
Oh my.
Hey boys.
Because we're talking about a see-through 360 top on this thing, and in the center of the craft, in the cockpit,
they're not hiding anything.
In the cockpit, if you will, stood two seemingly strikingly handsome,
very masculine, very
ETs.
masculine, chiseled almost, 6 foot tall. Like not scary tall, but tall enough to sweep you off your feet. You know what I mean?
I can only see him from the waist up. What a shame.
Oh, I'll tell you what. All right, those suits, super tight, cleaned in all the right places.
There's a great description where she goes at one point, one looks at her and then like touches the other one, and the other one like turns and looks too. And like now in this context, it makes me think of things like, ugh.
Yeah, because buddy, she's literally all I picture is her pressed. She's got her bosoms pressed up against the window, and she's saying, "Spaceman, take me away." Fucking. Listen, sweetheart, I don't know if you know this, but I'm very mechanically inclined, right? Because I've been known to make a man's engine run, if you know what I mean, huh?
I know how to work a stick shift, honey.
Yeah, there we go.
It's not starting. It's not starting. Get us out of here. Because she says later, she's like, I would have gone for a ride.
I would have went for a ride. They would have given him a sponge bath. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, well-built men. She referred to them as wearing some type of tight-fitting, skin-tight, probably, fitting
very
suits.
Tight.
So tight you can see all their muscles.
There's a superhero suit is what they're wearing. That's what it seems like.
Very strapping.
That's her.
What did they have there? Not the abs. They had, oh my God. What are they?
Cum gutters.
Oh, that.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Fucking Krusty is thirsty.
Krusty knows what cum gutters are. Krusty knows what cum gutters are.
Oh, shit. So funny.
Yes, while most of their bodies were covered by these tight-fitting outfits.
I thought you were about to say cum gutters when you were describing it there. I really did.
It not only were their bodies encased in these skin-tight suits, but they also had some type of...
They were people.
They had some type of material that she said, maybe like a more softer, more pliable type of material that covered their face like a mask. So she wasn't really able to make out.
Mysterious.
Yeah. Don't be shy, honey.
I'm into BDSM.
But she also noticed that although most of their body was covered by this in this fabric or this suit, their hands were uncovered, and she said that they just seemed the flesh
very big.
The flesh seemed very similar to a human's. Like it didn't look any different. Sorry, it wasn't scales.
Soft touch, you know, they're very masculine, but I'd imagine they'd have a very soft touch.
The interesting thing, what I pictured is the mask. Okay, it's like a cowl and then a mask. Like, you know, like the Halloween, you know, when we were kids and you get like the scream mask.
We're talking Captain America in the first one.
Right? And you can see the, you have like that, it's like the black whatever mesh that's so faint you can see through. I just imagine like a hood with just like a full fabric face mask of that.
Oh, I remember those Halloween masks.
Right? You know what I'm talking about? That's kind of what I
picture but they got the sexy superhero suits on. So I just picture like, you know, like the 90s superhero costumes in the movies where it's all one piece and it comes up into the cowl, right?
But it seemed like you didn't see any mouth though. Like it was full, like there's no description
covered
of
their
any
whole face.
Whole
Is what
face.
she described, yeah.
Right?
So it was like you
no
couldn't
mouth
see
Like
hole,
a black
nothing.
noir type situation.
Right? So it's,
All right. Yeah.
but yeah, the man,
Still sexy.
flesh-like skin.
So as she was observing the craft, Kendall described that it actually seemed to kind of tilt forward at one point, so she got a better view of looking into the craft. Because initially she could only see the beams from the waist up, and then as it tilted forward, she got a better look at it, like into the interior of the craft as it tilted, and you know she was able to get a good look at what they were
saying.
Yeah.
I mean, yes,
She was hoping. She was hoping. Who wouldn't though? You know, if you're in her situation, you're having a peek.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to have a peek.
I'd be
You want to
glued
know
to
what
the
these guys are
window
working
too.
with?
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
Or they're flying a fucking soundless spacecraft, but you know, to each his own.
Yeah, space sticks.
Space sticks. You only see the chances are low.
Yeah.
You gotta take advantage.
Yeah, I forgot. This is the event that the movie, the Jeff Goldblum movie, Earth Girls Are Easy, is based on. Yeah, forgot.
Makes sense.
The way that the figures were positioned, Kendall described that there was one in the front, and then there was one kind of just like in a little bit behind him, and the one standing in front seemed to be positioned in front of some type of chrome panel. Which had a number of like glowing symbols that she could see that kind of seemed to be changing colors and, you know, different, and would light up in sequences and whatnot. And then it also from that panel extended out some type of lever. She could kind of she would describe it as like something that you would see on a plane. Like you would see
like a joystick.
Joystick, right? So the figure that was standing towards the front of the craft actually reached out and moved the lever. And so the craft actually seemed to respond and then move a bit as he operated it with this joystick. So it seemed that was its way of, its way is moving. And so Kendall kind of remarked that she said they were about 6 feet tall, all of this.
They were fuckable.
She was like,
they were fuckable.
Well, she didn't say that.
She was like,
they were strapping.
They were striking.
They were strapping.
I don't know if I told you before, but oh my God. My God.
And as Braden mentioned before, the figure that was behind the other one, the one that in front seemed kind of fixated on the chrome panel in front of him, kind of moving his hands across it, trying to either manipulate it in some way or whatever, which kind of gave her, she went on to kind of speculate that it just seemed, if it were a human, that he was trying to fix something. It seemed to give off the impression that they were in distress, like this, like it was trying to do.
They have this fucking girl out the window catcalling them. They're like, get us the fuck out of here.
And the second figure actually seemed to notice her because she said that it seemed to turn and then like kind of just focus directly on where she was standing in that window. And then he reached out and touched the one in front. And then the pilot kind of, I guess he grabbed onto the stick and then moved it to further maneuver the craft, in where it was from where it was positioned.
Well, one of the other descriptions that she said too about, just to go back to like the dashboard and stuff, she said it seemed like the one kind of operating it wasn't touching, but was like waving his hand over top of the dashboard, and it was like lighting stuff up. So it's like he wasn't having to touch. It was just he was just waving his like arms over it, and it was activating stuff. It looked like lights or something. Like stuff was happening as he...
Yeah, because as we'll learn out soon, it was fucked. And the guy's just like, fuck, it's fucked.
He's actually just smashing the dashboard.
Yeah.
So all of the observations that we described were given in moments. Is what happened. Like Kendall would took all of this in within mere seconds, and then but Kendall she recalls very vividly not feeling scared in the least, just simply being surprised and actually more curious than anything about what she's seeing. Which I assume would be the case if you're a nurse. You've been practicing for a while. You've seen a lot of shit. It would just kind of be like,
seen it all.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to touch on that for a little bit because I had a thought. So we already touched on it a bit, but Braden mentioned the fact that she had been super mechanically inclined, right? Like that was kind of her thing. And one of her explanations for feeling very calm and relaxed was the fact that she's like, no, I think they were suffering from some type of mechanical, issues, and that's why they were there. They couldn't figure out what was happening, and that was her understanding of the encounter. That's why they were there. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with their ship, right? And I was thinking about that, and then she's calm and relaxed, and nothing's really phasing her. And it's to me, that's fucking so bizarre because you know what? You're a seasoned vet and stuff like that. I've been a paramedic for 10 years. I see a fucking ship, I'm gonna shit my pants. All right, I don't see spaceships at work. I see blood and guts. I don't see fucking spaceships at work.
It would take a lot less for you to shit your pants than a spaceship.
So listen, but I'm wondering if there was some type of I wonder if they were communicating with her telepathically, saying hey, there's no reason to get upset. Stay calm, relax.
Check out my
We're here for this reason. Yeah, look at our sexy bods. Maybe they don't even have sexy bods. Maybe that's why they were so hot.
Mental image.
They projected that image. They projected that image into fucking Kendall's head, right? Just to keep her calm.
They're really just a giant ball sack in there, actually.
Right? Because even she said, she's like, I've got family who drove race cars, so I know about machines, I'm assuming. Maybe that's kind of fucking bullshit. I'm wondering, I feel like they may have put that image in their head, and then you think about it, it's well, if they're having mechanical difficulties, why the fuck are they going to the hospital? But then I thought about it, I'm it's the 70s. What type of place other than let's say a military structure or something like that has high-tech fucking equipment? Cutting edge kind of stuff, radioactive materials, that type of shit. And that's not really that defended.
So they're trying to power up, refuel?
Well,
maybe they're there. Maybe they need, you think about a hospital, they have the peak technology for the time. They have, hard to find fucking radioactive materials, all that type of shit. It just feels like it was
What do they have radioactive at the hospital?
They got tons of fucking shit that radioactive. Any type of fucking cancer wards, anything like that. You go to radiology.
Chemicals and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
X-rays, I guess.
So maybe...
X-ray machines.
Right?
And they would have, a hospital that has massive amounts of power going into it. So if you're trying to charge a ship, we've talked about it a long time ago, charging a ship, you would need let's say, hypothetically, you would need a lot of power in a ship like that. So you need a high current draw. Why wouldn't you just go to the power lines though? I just debunked myself.
Well, true that. But here's one of my questions, because I thought this: did they not have air conditioning in 1970?
They for sure did.
Would a hospital not have had air conditioning? Because to me, the fact that they're we're gonna open here too hot, we're gonna open the window. I was like,
did you forget where we are though?
Yeah,
it's cold. Island.
Yeah, they don't really have air conditioning in Vancouver.
That's true. Yeah. Vancouver Island, there's not a lot. So, but
way more now than it was in 70s.
Thinking the hospital.
It's January. It's cold. Yeah. It'd be cool out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. She's so calm, relaxed. I don't know.
Hypnotized, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
I could also argue that she was she's coming off her night shift. She was there. She'd been there since midnight or 11 p.m. or something like that. And I know for sure, I've worked those kinds of hours. And if I in the Navy and I'm coming off a shift and I saw something, I'd be
but you never saw spaceship. Yeah. I work nights all the time.
Yeah, but you'd be
with other people. If we saw something that weird, we would fucking shit our pants.
Well, she did shit her pants, right?
No, but she was calm. She was like, listen, no, I'd say 9 out of 10 people would be like, holy fuck, there's a spaceship right in front of me. No matter what time of day, no matter what the situation, no matter what you fucking seen.
Is it possible you think that she was standing there and just so flabbergasted at what she was looking at that she's just like...
But she describes it as being calm.
Yeah, but...
That's the difference.
But maybe it's one of those things where she's like, oh, it's a helicopter. And then you kind of just like... Because you reckon you,
but then you see 2 sexy fucking dudes, spinning around. There's no.
If they're like, we
just don't get.
We don't know the Klopp situation. We know they're bipedal, but if they kind of look human, you know what I mean? And it's like, so you kind of have that like, what am I looking at? Like maybe it's a common in the sense of you're truly and utterly confused while you're looking at this thing, being like, are those people?
That sounds like more of a shock to me, which a nurse would be able to describe. But let's continue.
Maybe,
everything
yeah.
So Kendall making these observations in mere moments, she kind of was just stuck at the window motionless, but long enough for her coworker and supervisor, I believe Frida Wilson, who was in the same room.
That's actually Rita Wilson's Canadian cousin. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know. Who's that?
That's Tom Hanks.
Real tight. Rita and Frida.
Tom Hanks, right.
The mom from fucking Jingle All the Way.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
I know that movie.
Yeah. But Kendall...
Put the cookie down!
I don't know any... just open up the door, there's a bomb in there.
So Kendall was focused on this light, on this craft outside, and Frida Wilson noticed that she had just been standing there for a while, so she's kind of wondering, like, what... She kind of looked over and it's like, what is she looking at? Well, she wondered what she was looking at. And Wilson remembers beginning to actually move towards the window where she saw Kendall standing because she wanted to see like what she's looking at. And like just as she started to move, that's when Kendall actually just started like motioning to her silently, like to come over and come look at what she was seeing. So Wilson made her way over to the window in time to see what had captivated Kendall's attention. And she described, she's quoted as saying, "I saw this great big light over the patio outside the children's ward. I'd say it was quite a bit larger than a car." And then it was moving around slowly, and then it started to move away. I didn't really see any top or bottom to it. It was all just tremendously bright. So she didn't get a chance when she described her description. She didn't really get a chance to see the occupants of the craft because this craft seemed to be turning away just as Kendall kind of motioned her, like the craft had started moving. And this is also where Kendall kind of describes like she realized like she needed someone else to see it as it started to kind of move away.
How long was Kendall standing there? Like I just picture she's
like seconds.
Oh, like just seconds? I feel in my mind, I thought she was standing there for like 5 minutes, just like mesmerized by this fucking alien.
I think I think because of the amount of description she gives afterwards, you feel like, and just how she describes it, it does seem like it's a long time. But yeah, it's. She's
a trained nurse, so I'm sure she's been doing this for years, and she's trained to be
observing spacecrafts,
but observing anything, like just being able to look at it, look at something and be like, take in all of that. You say you're not going to fall back on your training on something like this and kind of be like, I need to take in as much information as possible, like before this happens.
No, you're in a completely brand new situation that you've never been in your entire life, seeing something you've never seen before. You're not going to be like, mental notes, Shakespeare or fucking Sherlock moment where you just take photographs with your brain and like, no, man.
I think, but you know what though?
She spent the night it's 5, like you said, it's 5 a.m. at the end of her night shift. She's not going to sit there fucking crisp as fuck.
But like she said, at first she thought it was a helicopter. Like that's something that is totally understandable. It'd be like, I think that's a helicopter. And then, it's not.
Absolutely.
But she's looking at it and observing all these things. And then she realizes what she's looking at, because after the craft starts moving away and she realizes it's not making sounds, she knows it's not a helicopter. So she's taking in all of this observations and all of these details of what's the occupants, the craft itself, because she thinks she's trying to figure out exactly what she's looking at, and she doesn't know it's her
eyes. 50-year-old nurse eyes are the same as everybody else's eyes in this scenario.
She's observing the craft, but she's also observing the occupants.
Yeah.
Sexy occupants. That's the first. I think that's when she tells the story. I think she switches it around just so she seems a little more reliable. But the first thing she sees is the aliens inside. Then she realizes there's the craft around them.
She does talk numerous times about how striking they were.
Striking.
Their great physiques.
Chiseled almost, like the statues of Apollo, like that's very detailed. All right, like just beautiful.
So just in a little segue, this voice fucking kills me because there's a liquor store that I go to that I call. I don't know what the name of the liquor store is. It's the closest one to my house, and I call it Honey Babies. And I call it Honey Babies because there's an old woman who works there. And when you come in, she goes, "Hey, honey, how are you today? Oh, honey." Like every other word's honey, sweetie, baby. So every time
but you sound exactly like Krusty the Clown. It's amazing.
People always wonder what Bill's job is.
Next up in my act, Sideshow Bob. Is it a good Krusty? Can I fill in?
It's great. That's your best impression that you didn't mean to do.
Now you shouldn't have said that. Now he's going to go to his head, and that's all he's going to get. That's all you're going to get out of him.
Buddy, everything goes to his head.
You guys better be ready for the next 10 case files.
He literally, at the beginning of this fucking case file, the beginning of the show, he's like, "Hey guys, welcome ADT 270. Now this one's special because this is where I live. I'm from here. This is it's right around the corner. I've been there. I drove past it.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've driven these roads." Anyways.
So Kendall and Wilson realized like what they were looking at. Our beer break.
Before we get into what they're looking at.
Okay, well, before we get there, we'll take a short beer break because Kendall, she never shied about her shied away from talking about it. So it took a couple days before we got to John Mager, who publishes the Canadian UFO Report. And before we get to that, we're going to take a short beer break. And we're going to be right back.
We're back.
So the event in question took place over a couple of moments. Kendall and Wilson realized that what they were seeing, that they were going to need more people to see what they were actually, to verify like what this is really weird. Like we needed somebody to do this, to see this. And they sprinted down to the nurses' station where a couple of the other fellow nurses were gathered.
This is a veteran move. I appreciate this move because they're in the geriatric ward, if I remember correctly. You got a bunch of demented old people who can't see. So getting like good eyes on this, like that was a good move.
They're like, sit back down, Frank. You ain't going to remember shit.
Yeah.
So they brought in addition to themselves, they brought,
is that Jesus? Take me home. I'm ready.
They brought in a Mrs. Appleby and a Mrs. Clarkson who followed them back to the room where Kendall had been looking out the window upon the craft. Now, the craft had apparently already moved a fair distance away from the hospital, and all that they could really see, what was described by the other nurses who managed to catch sight of it, was they just saw this unusual bright floating light that they observed just kind of rotating away from the side of the hospital. And then I think one comment from one of the nurses actually said that it ended up kind of moving away until it just took off at one point like a shot, is what she said.
Yeah, like blast off.
So they obviously fixed whatever was going on.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. That's fun.
That was good.
That was better.
So, what's interesting about it?
Shucks.
One of the interesting aspects of this case is that Kendall didn't really shy away about the event in question. Like it said that she penned it down in the logs for the hospital about what she saw, and
she charted it.
Yeah,
she charted it in the nurse's notes.
And she wrote it down like 5:15 a.m. Saw a flying saucer.
Yeah,
just very
the future
very
Mr.
clinical.
Kendall.
Very clinical, very just like you write it in there. Like I've written logs in the Navy, and it just sounds like something you would pen down, and you just be like, saw a UFO, and then right under that be like, main turbine pressure 170 PSI, blah blah blah. It would just be something you just write it there in between those, and like like fucking core oil temperature or something. Like you just right in there. Saw a UFO. Wait, what?
What'd you say?
UFO. So she actually posted this, and apparently she didn't really. People who asked about it, she told everybody. She was telling everybody who asked about it.
Now you wouldn't believe I saw the two handsomest spacemen I ever did see.
Yeah.
Yeah, she seemed happy to talk about it. But the report didn't really get any traction in terms of media coverage until like several days later, where the Victoria Daily Times actually picked up the story after it had been brought to the attention of one John Magor.
Magor. Make sure,
Magor.
Really get the pronunciation.
of Maple Bay, British Columbia, who edited and publishes, as Zell said before, the Canadian UFO
report. I'm pretty sure that's how.
Very respected.
Which I assume is like the Canadian. Is that like the Canadian?
It's the best version of any UFO report out there.
Of the APRO. Is it like the APRO Bulletin, which used to be?
Listen, that's the main paper.
That's like the fucking. That's the Canadian Cosmopolitan.
Everyone sees it.
Right? It's on every news rack. It's everywhere. Everybody's mom's is buying it.
Yeah. It's our Time magazine.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Everyone, every Canadian dreams to be on the cover of Canadian UFO report.
Canadian UFO magazine.
For some reason, too, it's like Men's Health.
Written, edited, and published by one person. Like
it's weird.
Just jacked in like in your skin tight uniform.
So when the Victoria Daily Times picked up the story, apparently also that was where a lot of this story got actually printed twice in the APRO bulletin. Apparently in the like November to December and the January to February editions, the APRO bulletin printed like. They commented this when they originally printed the story. If people remember APRO is like it's one of the precursors to MUFON, one of the first like civilian UFO investigatory bodies. And they even commented that they said they don't usually, when they caught wind of this story and they printed it in their newsletter, they didn't usually pre-print stuff until an investigation a formal investigation had been done. But when they heard this one, they felt like they had to publish it, strike while the iron's hot. And they actually published, details about what they had heard about and read in the Victoria Daily Times at the time of the event.
And I think that's because of there's certain professions that when they report these things, I think just get more respect for coming out with these. And to be honest, I think nurse is one of them. Like when you say this is a nurse that reported this, because these people are in charge of taking care like of the health and welfare of others. So it's like, if this person's crazy and not fit, they're going to remove this person from their job. If you're making claims and stuff like this, and they're like, and people legit think they're like, this lady's now crazy. Like there could be serious ramifications for you coming forward. So to come forward with something like this and then have the backing of your peers and coworkers, to me, I think that's why these kind of stories, people are like, well, shit, this isn't like, you know what I mean? Like Joe Blow on the street. It is like, I'm saying it again. I see it again. Right? It's every night. They're up there. This is like it's a well put together, professional woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the story had gotten out to the community. That's how John Magor had actually gotten the information, because it came through like a family friend of his that had talked to her, who I guess also worked at the hospital, the same hospital that Kendall worked on. So
Small Island,
just like the whole story was probably just propagating throughout the community and being like, yeah, they saw something crazy at the hospital over there.
And you fucking publish the Canadian UFO report. I guarantee you're like, oh shit, you're on it. Like, I don't think that he was wasting any time. He's so funny though, because he's a little bit of I don't want to say worrywart, but he did say that he believes that this is the start of a new 26-month cycle and it's just begun. And this time we may not be spared a peaceful invasion. So a little bit of
he says this time.
Doomsayer.
He goes on a doomsday rant.
Jesus. I'd be like, this time? When was the other time?
Batten down the hatches.
First it was that goddamn Charlie Red Star. And now they're here taking our women.
It's funny though, because you said like this, it spread throughout this town, pretty fast, but as fast as news can in the 1970s, right?
Yeah.
Like the newspaper and word of mouth. Like this is way before the internet age because, we ended up finding out after the fact that there was other people that had sightings on the exact same day. Right?
Yeah.
One even before Kendall saw
Well, that's what I was
it.
going to ask. Like, so if a sighting was this bright and this vivid, there must have been more witnesses besides just the two nurses really seen it.
Yeah.
There were some other nurses in the hospital who corroborated, like, yeah, we've seen a bright light, but they didn't really see the craft. So there must have been more people. If it was this big, this bright, there had to have been more. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. So there was a report of a husband and wife who were leaving a New Year's Eve party at about 5 a.m. So which I think is a little bit actually before Kendall's encounter. They witnessed the same described bright light above their house. And it was an oval-shaped craft emitting multiple shafts of light towards a single shaft. They kind of described it as like the same shape as a kid's spinning top. And it was sitting there right above their house. And it sat there for a few seconds and then shot away just like Kendall had described. And then I guess later that day, this one's pretty cool. Edith Beiling, a grade school teacher who was with several other staff and students at the time, claimed to see a large flying craft above the Alexander Elementary School. The craft was silently spinning, had a large ring around it, which is a little bit different from what we've heard. And she was saying that it looked like it was possibly changing in height, just dipping slowly, but she wasn't sure.
Like a drone.
But the interesting thing is she was unsure of the size, but estimated that a large plane could fit in it 15 times.
What?
Okay. Yeah. So like
That's a
we're not talking about like
weird estimate kind
That is a weird. that is a weird way to describe it.
A large plane could fit in it 15 times.
15 times. Pause for dramatic effect.
Yeah, that's a fucking lot.
15 times. So large.
That's
huge.
That's
That's
way
humongous.
Yeah.
that's
That's
way
like bigger than an aircraft carrier.
that's way bigger than what was seen at the hospital then.
Yeah.
But she's not a nurse. She's not very observant, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it
Could
is?
be. Yeah. It could.
Right.
I hear teachers see everything. The eyes in the back of their heads.
Yeah, there you go. Always being sarcastic. I think teachers are very observant and smart. I was being an asshole.
I don't think they can be trusted.
No.
Not trustworthy people at all.
Bunch of liars.
Anyone who works with vulnerable demographics.
You know why I don't trust teachers? Because
deserve
Byron's a
trust.
teacher and I would never trust him.
Oh, that's true.
That is true.
Touche.
No, that's why teachers can't be
I can't
trusted. You
believe
got
that.
Byron teaching your kids. You're all screwed.
English class must be really weird.
Yeah.
He was teaching English
G'day,
for a
mate.
bit. He actually, Byron was teaching French at one point.
Plates.
Byron was teaching grade 6 French. I was like, you don't know any French.
Bonjour, mate.
He said, no.
Bonjour.
Anyways,
Como allez-vous?
that's a tangent. But yeah, so you can't treat, if Byron's a teacher, you can't trust teachers. Therefore, their word cannot be
I'm sure his
relied on.
French is very good.
No, it's terrible. It's really bad. He can't speak one word.
What? He's teaching French.
To 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't even know if they're actually teaching French or just saying made up words.
Exactly.
C'est un stylo. C'est un stylo. Like that's all they're
Good
doing.
stylo.
A, B, C,
Des
D,
bananes.
U, F, G.
UFJ.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
P.
Yeah, right? You got it.
I don't know the rest.
Q, R, S, T, U, V, W.
I've seen you taught French before.
The thing with Vancouver Island, though, not a lot of people know is, and I'm not saying that this is 100%.
Is that where you're from?
That's
Is
where
that
I'm
where you
from.
live? Oh, okay.
He knows everyone
Is
too
that-
on the island.
Yeah, I know everyone.
Small island.
Is
everyone.
that this is, we have an Air Force base on Vancouver
And
Island,
nukes.
right? No.
Possibly nukes.
There's,
No.
I worked with a guy who told me that there was nukes on Vancouver
There's
Island. They lied.
no nukes. There's signs.
Told
There's
me.
signs that say no nuclear free
There's
zone.
signs that say nuclear free zone in Nanaimo. Nowhere else. It's a nuclear free city.
The new no.
The only one.
There's nukes.
But the thing is like, so we have an Air Force base in Comox. So part of me was, because I'm like, it does seem like her description of this, that one, very humanoid, like very. Two, I'm like, they're like, it looks like they're struggling with operating this thing, with whatever it is, like maybe they're not, they didn't mean to like end up this close to the hospital. So I was kind of thinking that like, you know, I was like, okay, well, the technology exceeds anything that we might have. So I thought maybe this is a recovered alien craft that pilots are trying to pilot. Second thing I kind of was thinking of, I was like,
isn't there that shitty Canadian craft that we made?
it was unreal. The Avro Arrow,
just like this.
That was amazing.
That's the Avro car.
Project.
The Avro car.
Yeah, the Avro car is like Project.
There was one that's like circular like that, though, wasn't it?
But it made noise. I didn't find. But maybe
Project 47B or something.
Yeah, but maybe they improved it.
The other thing I just came to my head is like, we have at one point we were like cutting edge aerospace with like the Avro Arrow. So it was like, could this have been some sort of experimental craft flying, doing test runs? Because people also saw it like heading up the road, like highways, like in the Nanaimo area. So like just a little bit further north, as the crow flies, is the Comox Valley military base, right? The Air Force base. So, you know, maybe they're doing test flights.
the way that we,
I don't think that's the right way to use that word, is it?
What are you talking about? What word?
As a crow flies, doesn't that just mean straight?
Yeah, so not on the road. That's what I'm saying. Like it's not, the UFO's not driving, it's flying. So as the crow flies, not that far.
I feel like the descriptions, like we've already mentioned, is that it's like, yeah, it seemed like they were having some, to her observation, like they're having some sort of technical difficulty. And for some reason, this reminds me of that if anybody remembers, like when you would get those, you get like the magazines and stuff, and then in the back there would be like, you know, order the parts to build your own hovercraft or something like that. You know, it'd be like, you know, you could get a catalog of all these parts and junk and whatever. I feel like it's just something like two guys like whip together in their backyard, and like it's just like the fact that it's like, okay, you've got this somehow like motion or whatever tactile activated chrome panel, and then it has a joystick on the side. You know, it's like it just seems out of place.
Yeah, too recognizable almost. It seems weird.
And she's like, yeah, and he operated the stick to kind of to control where the craft is going. And I'd be like, well, it seems strange. It just seems like it's too analog to be like you have an analog stick where you have like instead you're moving your hands over these panels that seem to change with the positions of your hands and all this. And
I'm
then
90% sure
stick.
that that's how George Jetson drives his fucking.
Well, it sounds like the Independence Day setup, where it's like where they got fucking like Jeff Goldblum's like iMac like jerry rigged like interface on their UFO craft, and they've got like Post-its on there that say like this goes up, this goes down, this activates the shielding. Like right,
but that could be exactly it, right? Like these are humans.
Why'd you pull the Post-its off?
These are humans trying to like they have a retrofitted joystick because they're like, we know how to use this. So they have it retrofitted and they're like, it's fucking up. They're like, I don't know. Wave your hand 3 times, activates. It's like not working out. Meanwhile, Buddy's
that's like the backup system.
Yeah. And Buddy's like,
right. It failed. So
Buddy's like touching his head. He's like, fuck, Buddy, we got to get out of here. So if someone sees us, someone's looking right at us in the window. Get us the fuck out of here.
She's got that hungry look in her eyes. I don't like the way she's looking at us.
Yeah. She's undoing her top. Get us out of here.
Hello, boys.
The other thing is like,
beam me up.
Like on Vancouver Island, there's like the Navy's house here and stuff. And Dan, you might know what this is. I never knew what it is, but I've seen it parked off the coast a couple times in the Georgia Strait. It's like the Zumwalt. I had to look what it is. Zumwalt class destroyer, the USS Michael Monsoor. It's like one of 3 of your guys' like most expensive Navy ships. It's like it's made for like to be radar stealthy. It has a really weird appearance.
Oh, the ones that are like the ones that have like the tri.
Yeah.
The ones, are you talking about the ones that have like the stealth kind of,
hold on.
They're all funny looking, angular looking and stuff?
I think I can show you.
Talking about that one?
I think if I do this one here. Can you see this?
No.
Oh,
now I can.
Yep.
Yeah. I know what those are. Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, so
stealth warship.
So that's been parked out.
Those things are pretty cool.
And I have a buddy. I got a friend who has a friend of a friend, who worked down in Nanaimo running like crush truck out of like one of the Navy bases. And he said that for 18 months, all he did was go down to the ocean and all day would take loads out like of dirt and like they were digging. Right. And he's like, I don't know what they were digging and putting there, but like for 18 months, all we did was
nukes.
There's signs. And again, we've talked about it before. As you drive into the city of Nanaimo on Vancouver Island, there's signs at every entrance into the city that says this city is a nuclear free city.
Yeah, but it's the only city that has those. And so it's like nuclear free. Like, sure.
Right. But then
we don't have the best way the Canadians can come to cover up something. So put a sign there.
No news here. Don't worry about it.
But then if you think about how much UFOs are like interested in that kind of stuff and like, buzz in places where nukes are being held, could it have, maybe before they put up the signs, they had nukes there, right? They had nukes hidden. So that's why they were getting this UFO flap at this time, is because nukes, whether they were strategic NATO positioning for Navy, right, or on Navy ships for housing in the 70s, right, which is, I don't think would be wildly out of the question.
Well, they always, like, Canada never ever said that we had nukes, but they never didn't say we didn't have American nukes.
Yeah.
So they could have
Canadian nukes.
Very well been a NORAD installation on the, which makes sense because that Russia's not far away at this point, especially in the Cold War. So to have American nukes on Canadian soil, but no one knows about it, I wouldn't be surprised.
100%.
Would not be surprised. At least a couple, just a few, just in case.
I heard at the entrance they have this like fucking video game that nobody knows about, and you have to play it to open the door.
Speak the password.
It's the only way you can get in. Yeah,
it's where they hold the recipe for Nanaimo bars.
That's the big secret.
Bar, bud.
I have to say one of my favorite parts about researching this for this case file was like there were a couple serial misspellings of locations of talking about this event, and some of them were like the only reason I was talking to the guys earlier, and I said that the only reason that I know it was Nanaimo and not like Nanano or Nununu was because you guys have mentioned that location before, because I've read it in a couple of articles about this, and they just misspelled the name, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, you have maps.
I listened to a couple podcasts for this episode, and several times Cowichan.
Yeah,
it's the Cowichan or Nanamu.
That's good.
Nanamu.
That's good.
Nanamu.
It's close. It's not bad.
Great. Loved it.
Now, the other thing I was thinking,
I was hoping they were going to say Shamanus.
Oh, Shamanus.
We should have got Dan.
We should have. The one thing that I was thinking is that, like, let's go off like under the presumption that this thing is extraterrestrial. The things on board are human-like, but not human. That's why they have the face covers. But it's
sexy.
low text. So then I was thinking of like, could we chalk up like?
But if you were that sexy, would you want to cover it up?
Well, maybe, but maybe they're butter faces, right?
That's fine. They're wearing masks.
Right? Yeah, well, that's why they cover it up. But so then
the bods.
I was thinking that perhaps it's one of those things, and maybe we in just this for UFOs to just go out exploring. Right, they're exploring. They come and they see life. What they kind of examine, and then they go. Like maybe they don't have a special interest in staying and sticking around. It's they come here and then they move on to the next. So what we've been seeing in some of these flaps is that like these UFOs are from star systems that are closer because the technology is not as good, so they can't travel as far. So maybe like it's one of these systems. It's only like 30 light years away, right? And they have their kind of ships that aren't as good. And then you see these other ones that just, vanish and shake and maybe they're even older from, distant stars. So when they come here, that's just a human thing where we're like, they're here for us. But really it's like, they're just explorers looking at life and then they move on. And we're just seeing various waves of like different technologically advanced civilizations from across the galaxy. Right. And we just think that they all have to be connected, but maybe they're not. Right? Maybe like some of these
just happen to get the hillbilly UFOs.
Exactly, right? But maybe those UFOs will get buzzed in space. You know what I mean? They'll get buzzed by a different UFO and they're like, holy shit. Right? Like, oh my God. What is that thing?
It's the same for everything. There's always a more
fish.
unidentified flying object than yourself.
There's always a more identifiable flying object.
But if you're just take like, if you're the best, you think you're the best. There's always someone better, right? There's always someone better. There's always someone better than them. It might take a few years, but eventually someone's better than them. So it makes sense for ETs as well. There is no one.
Are we talking about ETs or Apex Crew?
Just saying, there's no apex of aliens. There's always a better alien. There's always a better craft. They're always coming from somewhere farther. That's what I think.
Or
makes sense.
Or the other thing I kind of was thinking, I was like, I was just kind of super bored at work, so I was kind of letting my brain go.
Just something new. Got bored at work for once, eh?
Every day, literally every day.
Works so hard. There's no way.
Now, I was thinking that, perhaps this is one of those things where, we talked last week about artificial intelligence, and like, let's say there's like not a very friendly AI that's all consuming, right? Like that's coming and it takes, and like, what if these species that we see that are, maybe they're just passing by because they're like, this entire galaxy is slowly being taken over and we're on the out. So it's like, we're on the outskirts and these people are flying, like we're on the highway while everyone's leaving, right? We're just passing us by as they're leaving from something that's worse, closer to the core of the Milky Way galaxy that's slowly spreading out, right? But
don't like that one.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today.
Yeah, that's
right. So maybe they take life, they take samples and then they continue on, right? Because if you could work in with a bunch of stuff, because if you could have some sort of hybridization program, you're like, okay, well, we know planets like this exist, so we could inhabit them on the way. Give ourselves the best chance to just keep life going from this thing.
Cool.
I like that.
That's where I was kind of going today.
I like that.
Me too. I like it.
I don't think the joystick guys are making it too far. just say it. Right? They're fucked. They're getting caught.
Yeah, it's just that was one of
they barely survived a cougar attack.
That's one of the things that's stuck in my head. Just the image of one of them just like grabbing the stick and just be like, God, put it in reverse. Like, why? I can't. Like, it's insane. But it's just like I mentioned before. Like this case is interesting because it's like not only you have health professionals, not just one, you have two at least that like saw something exceedingly strange.
I've seen a craft,
and
at
then
least.
and then the other ones that saw it, and like Kendall is asked about it like later in interviews. She was asked about the events. Of course, like people approached her and talked about it, and she was talking about how she clearly described these entities that she saw standing inside the craft, and they kind of asked her like, well, did anybody else see these? How come none of the other nurses? How come Miss Wilson didn't see it? And she just says it was just timing. Like it was just that the craft was like turning away as she called Wilson over, and by the time Wilson came over, it was like they were just facing kind of the rear of this craft, or the craft had moved in such it positioned itself in such an angle that you couldn't see him anymore. But she'd never changed her story. Like nothing ever really kind of, the story didn't change. Times didn't change, nothing. It just seemed to kind of just stay very consistent, through her retellings, of this event.
She never profited.
It just seems really, never really profited.
No reason to change it when you're telling the truth.
Again, she wrote this down in a professional log, like a professionally kept log. She wrote it in there, just saying that saw UFO at 5:15 a.m. I wrote it in there, and it's like, I don't even know if I'd write that in there. Like if somebody was just like,
you got it. You got to chart it, buddy. It's what you see.
Well,
when you're doing your rounds, you see something, you chart it.
I mean, especially in this day and age, it's not like it was open. Like people were losing pilot's license and stuff like that for this kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know if I would have done that too at the time. Now, hell yeah. I'd be like, I need some time off because of this. The knowledge that I'm not alone in the universe is causing me great stress. So I'm going to need to take a stress leave here.
Yeah, and then like Andrew mentioned, there were other cases around the same time that happened that people were seeing. You know, it just seemed that they were experiencing some sort of UFO flap there on Victoria Island in British Columbia. We're having their own, just a constant series of UFO encounters. There's one that we'll probably talk about at another time. There was another event that's associated with this one called that happened in Mill Bay that we will probably cover on another case file, because we found out while looking at this one that one is also exceedingly interesting to look into. So we'll definitely cover that one on another case file, as we move on.
There's always another case file. There's always another UFO, and the more you look in, the more cases you find. And in this case, there seems to be one pretty much right next door.
Yeah, this one was a fun, was it the nesting doll? It was like a nesting doll UFO case. Because sometimes we go into, you dig into one case file and you find like, wait, what is this one? Like this one branches off into this one, and, related events, connecting the dots. It's what we do here. So just seems really, this one leads into this one as well. So this one will be fun, another one to dig into on a future case file.
100%. 100%. We'll get there in, case file 455, I believe.
Yeah, we're putting it down.
We have it on the calendar today for 455.
Yeah.
No, we barely have 2 case files planned ahead, usually. 4 if we're lucky. 4 is good. If we get 4 ahead, it's good. All right, and this week's Theorite of the Week, there's a couple different ways to get Theorite of the Week. One of them is to leave us a amazing, immaculate, top-notch 5-star review. Get onto the Facebook group would be number 2. That's the official Alien Theorists Theorizing Facebook group. You can find it in the link tree. Or number 3 is to just send Braden something and he'll put you on there. So there's 3 different ways to get on.
Yeah, everyone knows. Easy.
Easy. Yeah. This week we got a review, and I think Andrew is going to give his best attempt to read something without stuttering, not even once.
We'll see. Slightly concussed, so it's going to be interesting. 5 stars. Favorite podcast. I've been listening for a while and have to say, this podcast has changed my life for the better. My arthritis?
Gone.
My credit score? Elevated. My dance moves? Perfect. Now men approach me in the streets, willingly offer me their money and credit cards, when I couldn't even get a date before. The boys have really come through for me, and I appreciate the humor and details they bring to every case file. Zell, Dan, Braden, and Andrew feel like old friends now, keeping those eyes on the skies. Now listen, I want to be very
Raffi.
Serious. Listen, well, that's the thing. This is nepotism. All right. We're not giving you Theory of the Week just because you're related to fucking Raffi, Canadian legend. Guy we grew up with. Singer-songwriter. We're giving it to you because that review.
How do you know she's not
fucking Raffi?
How do you know she's not related?
She has
to be.
How many other Raffis do you know?
Raffi Torres.
Raffi,
yeah.
That's the only other one.
Is he? Yeah, he's Canadian too.
He's Canadian.
I think he's related to him too, though. That's why he's so angry. You have like yin and yang.
This is exactly what we told you a few case files ago. If you subscribe to Alien Theorists Theorizing, your whole everything could be reversed for you. All good fortunes will come your way.
Terminal illnesses?
Maybe. Perhaps.
Maybe. I don't know.
Little asterisks under that one. Possibly not.
Maybe.
Well, I would ask, are you listening enough?
Or here's the biggest thing here. You don't know until you try.
This is true.
Fucking pull the trigger.
It's like Reiki healing, you don't really know until someone swirls the crystals over you.
It's like Scientology. The more you pay, the more you heal.
That's exactly right. So on that note, if you're not supporting the show and you want the early access to all the case files, ad-free, the bonus stuff, by now you know where to go. You go to alientheorist.com, you hit the support tab, you support us on Patreon or Supercast. They do the same thing. And we really appreciate it. And we read your fucking name also. All right? We read it once, sometimes twice if we get lucky and we forget who we read the week before. This week's newer supporters, we have Jack Buckley, Sean Fazani, Scuddian goes up a tier. Clayton. Dan is supporting his own show. That's how
I like
desperate
the extra
he
content.
is.
Thank you, Dan.
I like the extra content.
Well, yeah, we don't give
Well
Dan
worth
the
it.
code for the Patreon.
Yeah.
So I have to, yeah.
He records
Okay.
it all, but he doesn't get to listen to any of it. Yes,
Nope.
you gotta subscribe.
Mhm.
I like coloring. So does Braden. He's terrible at it, but he likes it.
He's outside the lines and everything.
Todd Clement. Lance.
Eats them most of the time too.
Anand. Hillbilly. And Jalen Cruz. Cruz? It's like Cruz, but no I. There's no I in there. Cruz. Jalen Cruz. Thank you very much for supporting the show. We appreciate it.
And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
See you in after hours.
Peace.